Hey guys, so I decided to do two videos in one day because I'm really just getting caught up on this whole skeptic feminist thing where this YouTuber who, didn't really have the biggest channel in the world apparently ended up killing his girlfriend. Or I don't know if the girl was part of the YouTube community, but it seemed like that people at least knew who she were. So I'm really undecided about how I feel about the way some people in the quote unquote skeptic community have been shit posting about this. Basically, I just finished listening to a feed that Sargon did with V and Kraut and all those guys, basically doing damage control for a previous stream they did on V's channel that discussed the whole skeptic feminist shit and basically making fun of it. I think that's fair to say. I think Sargon probably wouldn't put it that way. He's kind of been arguing about this constantly on Twitter for the past few hours, so I don't really know what his position is on it. But there are times in that stream where they kind of fucking make fun of skeptic feminists and the fact that he quote allegedly killed a chick, and it didn't seem to be because of it wasn't ideological or anything. It just seemed to be that he had I think he had PTSD, something like that, where he just kind of snapped and ended up killing this girl, and it seemed to be a very sad situation all around. Not something worth making fun of, but the problem is obviously come because they have every right to crack jokes, because I mean this is a person on the opposite side of the cultural war, and I mean it's not like they knew this chick who died. This is someone who it didn't particularly sound like they disliked this person. I mean Kraut sounded like he didn't like this he liked this person. I mean, from everything I've gotten about skeptic feminist was that he was a very kind of chill, polite, civil guy, and this whole incident seems to be surprising a lot of people because they never would have suspected that this guy had something this dark in him. And if the allegations about it being a result of PTSD are true, I mean obviously probably the investigation is too early to even come close to determining that it wasn't him, or it wasn't all him. It was part of this sort of fucking problem he had, and he, for whatever reason, he snapped and he killed this girl. um but that kind of nuance, I mean it's a tragic fucking situation, and it's not something that the internet is used to dealing with compassion with. I mean the headline about this says it all. Is just popular YouTuber kills girlfriend, or popular feminist kills his girlfriend. I mean that's obviously bait for a lot of anti-SJWs. I mean I'm an anti-SJW myself. I would probably identify as that. So to see that kind of headline where this guy who's advocating for feminism ends up killing a woman, there's obviously a lot of irony behind that, and I get that. And you can obviously shit post about that. You have every right to do it. Is it is it tasteful to do it? Is it classy to do that? No, it's not. But you have the right to do it. You can do it if you want to. There's a bigger point here that I think wasn't addressed during the live stream with Sargon and everybody. Because I've been following the skeptic community for at least 6 months now. I've been following Sargon probably for about a year, and one thing, there was a moment earlier this year where I think the skeptic community really kind of plateaued, or it had the opportunity to plateau into the next level of what it actually could be to the culture at large, and that was the PewDiePie scandal. when the Wall Street Journal actively went after a YouTuber for something that he demonstrably did not do. They went after PewDiePie for racism, and it was kind of determined at the time that he wasn't racist. That these were jokes, and this was basically a hit piece. And what happened was the skeptic community and guys like Sargon and Vee, and basically all of these people got together and said, look, these guys are obviously out to get PewDiePie, and we're not sure of their motivations. We have pretty good idea about their motivations, but they're obviously out to do a hit piece on this guy. And to me, that was kind of an important moment because it showed, number one, the dishonesty of the mainstream media and the problems that we were having with the mainstream media that no other outlets are really talking about. I mean, YouTube is really kind of been a safe haven for a lot of people who feel that the mainstream media isn't doing their job. It's been a safe haven for those people to really come together and really kind of talk about it and research and really kind of get their ideas together about why the mainstream media isn't doing what it's doing. And with this whole conception of the alt media, the way I kind of perceived it was the skeptic community was at the center of the alt media. I mean, the skeptic community to me was sort of exactly what the alt media should be. It was a group of people of all ideological affiliations. They agreed with each other on a lot of things. They disagreed with each other on a lot of things, but they were able to have deep, penetrating conversations with each other, and they were able to talk about ideas in interesting ways, and they were able to amass an audience for themselves and actually get paid. So I think there was an optimism at the time that the alt media was, if it wasn't going to replace the mainstream media, it was going to become a cultural force where the mainstream media would actually have to look at them and not mock them anymore, and they would actually have to take them seriously. And in the exact same way that the mainstream media is supposed to keep the government in check, the alt media was supposed to keep the mainstream media in check. I think that was the direction that a lot of people saw this thing going. So that seemed to be an optimistic moment earlier this year, but that kind of all came crumbling down when the YouTube demonetization crisis came. And this is going back to my point about the skeptic feminist, but just bear with me. When the the demonetizing started to happen for popular YouTube channels, there was a feeling of crisis because this sort of optimism that I just described started to crumble because it started to feel like there was a coerced attempt to silence some of these voices and to certainly cut their paycheck by a lot. I mean, YouTube didn't censor these people, YouTube didn't ban them, but they did strip them from making a decent living by doing what they're doing. And from what YouTube was saying, that seemed to be the weapon of choice that they decided to do, is that if you if you stray from the lines of comfortability that we're comfortable with, you will get not paid for the work that you do. And so with that, there was a lot of conversations within the skeptic community about how they should approach this going forward. That there was obviously hope that maybe YouTube would come to its senses and maybe they would eventually pay these these people who put in a lot of hours. They put in a lot of work to make these videos and to try to make decent points about culture and politics. But there kind of was a feeling that we need to band together and keep doing what we're doing, and eventually the money will come if we keep working hard enough at it. And that was important. And I think when that happened, there was a feeling that we need to show not only the mainstream media, not only YouTube, but everybody that we are legitimate, that we can't be silenced, that we actually have a voice in the culture at large, and we actually have interesting things to say that we think the majority of people would be interested in hearing if we only had the platform for it. Sorry. So with the Skeptic Feminist incident that just happened, and with the sort of shit posting session that just happened, I'm kind of the opinion that this is another important point for the skeptic community, right? Because the entire narrative that they've been crafting for themselves for this entire year is that they basically want to become a legitimate voice. You know, they want to be they want this to be their jobs. They want their message to reach people beyond just themselves. I think that's fair to say. Maybe not, but I think it is. And they want to continue to keep other institutions that have more power than them in check. So my critique is you can't do that, right? You can't set yourselves up as moral arbiters while at the same time doing shit that a lot of people will have a problem with. Does that make sense? Like, I know the criticism that they've been kind of saying of the people who are going at them right now is that, well, you know, the social justice warriors have done much worse, that they have doxed people, they have done all this horrendous shit. So excuse me if I don't bend to their will and I make a little joke about, you know, a tragic event that happened that really no one here cares about because no one knows these people personally. I mean, that's true, but it's my opinion that just because the other kids are doing bad shit on the playground, you don't get to do bad shit on the playground. Like, V was making the point in this stream that, you know, I didn't sign up on YouTube. I didn't make any agreement that I had to be civil. I didn't make any agreement that I had to be tasteful or anything like that. If I want to talk about, you know, if I want to make fun of a dead girl and you know, a feminist murderer of a woman, I have every right to. And of course, he has every right to. But the larger point, I think, is the Sargon and Vee and Kraut and all these guys have really rallied around the idea that they are taking part in a community, right? And it's not just and it's not an isolated community. You know, it's a community that obviously has a lot of impact. A lot of YouTubers go to these people's channels and they listen to their videos and they listen to their ideas, and it always sparks conversations and all that kind of shit. So if you actually want that sort of cultural input, if you actually want to have that kind of influence over people, and you have it, whether you like it or not. I mean, Sargon is an extremely influential person now. You know, his YouTube channel probably gets more views than, you know, shows on CNN or MSNBC. And it kind of annoys me. Obviously, I have no say over what he can or can't produce, and I totally get that. But for as much as they've talked about going against the mainstream media, as much as they've talked about they need, you know, that they want to talk about the problems with Islam, they want to talk about the problems with, you know, America and England and France and all these countries and the Islamic problem or the cultural problems and all that kind of shit. As much as they've morally grandstanded to say that they are the ones who will point out these problems and they will show they will show these emperors that they have no clothes. They then go on to just talk about fucking YouTube drama for you know, for a weekend. You know, they get fixated on the stupidest shit. You know, I mean, there is no reason whatsoever that they had to do a stream about this whole thing, making fun or talking about or making little jokes about this guy who was a feminist who killed, you know, his girlfriend. What was the reason for it? It wasn't ideological. I mean, they all said, which I completely agree with, that this wasn't an ideological move by the Skeptic Feminist. You know, he didn't kill this girl because he secretly hated women or something stupid like that. He killed this girl because he had deep psychological problems that manifested themselves in a way that were tragic. And obviously, I mean, this is a guy they knew, right? I mean, I think many of these skeptics, these these skeptic people, they talked with skeptic feminists a lot, and they had conversations with them. And when that happens, it does have a weird effect on you. When someone kills someone, or when someone dies, you want to talk about it, and I completely fucking understand that. But I mean, my question is, that could have been, why couldn't that have been accomplished through a Skype session? Why couldn't that have been accomplished even on Twitter? Why did that have to be an hour and a half stream? Because all the time and all the effort you guys are putting into this, you should be putting into things that actually matter. This, in the grand scheme of things, this doesn't matter. And when you get bogged down in YouTube drama bullshit like this, you become no better than the mainstream media. And I'm not even talking about the SJWs. you know um Although I do think there was a a decent point made by several commoners, which was, kind of making fun of uh, skeptic feminists and him doing this. How is that any different than the SJWs who made fun of Thunderfoot when his father died of cancer, right? And I think V addressed that in the video, and I really don't remember what he said, but I wasn't convinced by it. I think he said something to the effect of, "Well, we didn't, we weren't actually trying to hurt skeptic feminists by saying it." Well, that doesn't change anything. I really don't think that changes anything. The effect is the same for the people who hear it. Skeptic feminist obviously isn't hearing this because where I assume he's in jail right now. But I think people on the other side of this have a right to be offended by that kind of shit. If they're obviously much closer, they're obviously YouTubers who were much closer to skeptic feminists than any of these guys, and they're probably quote unquote social justice warriors. They're probably leftists, but they're hurting right fucking now. They're really hurting. I I saw the last video that Skeptic Feminist did was a video with ContraPoints. So I looked at ContraPoints' Twitter, and she just kind of said that she's trying to avoid stupid YouTube drama for the week. And I actually think that's a totally perfect. That, to me, that's a perfect tweet to make. That's exactly what you should do when there's actually, you have a friend who has something tragic happen in his life. The best thing, you're hurting, and the best thing you can do is just sort of shut down Twitter and figure out how you fucking feel about this, you know? And as much as I disagree with ContraPoints, I think she was totally in the fucking right, because she kind of dealt with this. I'm sure she's having private conversations with people about this. I'm sure she's talking to other, progressives or socialists or whatever she is. I'm sure she's talking with them about it and trying to figure the fuck out what she thinks about it. But I mean, Sargon and all these guys, they're not doing that. They're doing live streams, as many people pointed out. They're monetizing these live streams, which isn't really the classiest thing to do. But I mean, they're putting this really horrible fucking thing that happened, that should be a private thing, and they're putting up to show the world. I mean, this is the intellectual equivalent of whenever a newspaper gets shit for having pictures of a car accident on the paper, and everyone's like, oh, you guys just want to fucking, if it bleeds, it leads. You guys don't care about the family of these people. All you care about is just getting people to buy the paper, and a picture will do that. And there is a point to that. I really believe there's a point to that if you actually don't care about any of this, why would you talk about it when it's actually going to hurt people that do care about this? you know I mean, Sargon and V and all these guys, because of their influence, they are now the foremost commentators on Skeptic Feminist and his life. Now Sargon and Vee and Crowd and all these guys are tied to them. When you type in Skeptic Feminist, the first thing you get is that stream. That is basically capitalizing off of a terrible thing that happened. And these are supposed to be people who, I'm young enough to remember when they were talking about all the shit that the mainstream media does, that they don't care about intellectual honesty. They don't care about actually getting to the truth of things. They care about forwarding their agenda, and they care about making money. Well, this seems like making money to me. This seems like you're just putting this out there because it's interesting, and people want to hear about it, even though it adds absolutely nothing to the larger conversation. There's no larger conversation going on about more about male feminists being murderers. That there's no numbers or data or anything to indicate that. So why the fuck are you talking about it? And I'm sure V would say, I'm talking about it because I want to talk about it. And you can do that, and you can do that. But V also did a stream with Harmful Opinions where he came out off as, morally indignant, where he had the higher moral ground because, it was during the whole YouTube demonetization thing, and Harmful Opinions was talking shit about, if you want to make money, you should diversify and all that. And V was calling him out on a lot of shit, and he was being the moral actor here. If V wants, moral currency, in my opinion, he lost it. And moral currency actually is more. It's better to have it than not to have it. If you're spending it on stupid shit like this, you're going to go broke. And that's my main argument, that you're going to eventually go broke morally if you continue to focus on shit like this. I mean, Crowd and T did an hour-long video about why he hates SJWs and all of the shit they've done to people in the past. This was like 2 days ago, and what does he do next? He goes on this stream and kind of makes jokes, little jokes about fucking Skeptic Feminist. There's at least a little hypocrisy in that. And I'm not saying that they're not doxing people, obviously, but just because they're not doxing people doesn't mean it's in the right. So that's that's all I got. I was really trying to figure out how I feel about it. I'm obviously against it. I'm not gonna unsubscribe to any of these guys. I like their work. I like what they do, but I just wish they would focus more on what they do best. Because I really think these guys have an interesting position in the current cultural climate, and to see them waste it on shit like this is really disappointing to me because I am a fan.